to Down Your Unders. Down Your Unders. Review and dissection of content from some of the sharpest minds in the game. Hosted by Adam Camilleri. Art of War. Down Under.
Hello, my lovely denizens of this big wide world of 40k and Warhammer therein. My name's Adam Camilleri. Welcome to the Art of War Down Under podcast. We've got an impromptu, very early morning recording occurring because some spicy things have dropped, some spicy things have happened, and we got sent the NDA-ridden Balanced Dataslate Minotaurian Field Manual detachment update, index card update, and some rules commentary. So yeah, a lot. And due to that, a scramble then ensued, and there was only one man who stepped up to the plate for your entertainment and informative pleasure. His name is John Lennon. You heard him last week. He's become an absolute fixture on the show. He might as well be my other half, my younger, more handsome, hairier other half at the moment. Actually, I don't know if you're hairy. My hair's very long at the moment. We might need to compare and contrast sometime in the future. Hello, John.
Hello, Adam. It's good to be back. You know what? We thought we were done with secrets. But we're just not.
We're just not. Turns out there's only so many people on this earth that I can get on to try and get this thing in the pipe before the drop. And of course, we were left with not too much time to stitch this together. So we're going to be recording a review of the brand new Balanced Dataslate for the Great Game of Warhammer 40k. In addition, we'll be talking about points. If we do have time, we will touch on some of the hot takes on the rules commentary in addition. But there is a lot to unpack here. Essentially, in this Dataslate, we have, I suppose, not so much has changed core rules-wise in this Dataslate. I'm just going straight into hot takes. But Drukhari have had a virtual rewrite. We have had holistic changes to Eldari, CSM, and a couple of other factions, and then some minor tweaks to kind of the middle of the pack and the lower of the pack. This is going to be a pretty hellacious refresh. How you feel about it, mate?
Yeah, they did a lot here. I'm overall optimistic. It's not perfect, but Games Workshop has never dropped a release other than released Tyranids of 9th edition, where I thought, this is exactly the way it should always be. But I know. I think, though, that we're ending up in the same spot as the last Balanced Dataslate, where it's not perfect, but this is another step in the right direction. And theoretically, if every 3 months we take another step in the right direction and the game gets better every 3 months, at some point we are going to be perfect, or as close enough that I can be happy.
We're going to be pretty damn happy by the end of it. For those who do not know, Art of War Down Under is a two-part podcast. If you're just joining us for the very first time to get your download of the Balanced Dataslate goodness, Art of War Down Under is a two-part podcast. First part comes out Tuesday mornings, Eastern Standard Time. This may be a day late. I may be delaying a day or two to catch the slate as it drops and go out exactly on the same day. So do forgive me if you are, left there twiddling your thumbs, being like, "Where is Adam? Where is Down Under?" We are on our way, but we're going to be riding the content train for this one because it's pretty important. The second part can be found over at Art of War Down Under over on Patreon, and thank you very much to Seamus, who edits and curates my podcast so it is worthy of your beautiful ears and listening. And thank you so much to everybody who supported us so far. Part 2 here will be me and John hot taking, probably talking about biggest winners and losers. If not, that's what we're doing next week. With whatever guest I can scramble together. Because I'll probably let John have a rest. But, my man, let's just jump straight in. So, Balanced Dataslate, January 2024. We've been waiting a very long time for this. It feels like this is coming out very late, but it's still managed to scrape in just in time for January. Core rules-wise, has anything changed?
It doesn't look like it. So, it appears that this document has kept the red text from the previous Balanced Dataslate. And so as near as I can tell, the red text that they're using is not actually things that have changed from last slate. It's things that have changed from the original publication. So there is some red text on the first page. However, as far as I can tell, the first page is entirely, hey, devastating wounds still is not mortals. Yep. Hey, insane bravery is still before you roll the test. It's once per game. Firewatch. And as far as I can tell, they didn't remove anything either. So strats still battle tactics only for modifying. Firewatch still in line of sight, not Titanic. Insane bravery is still once per game before you roll it, and devastating wounds is still no saves instead of mortals. That's all the same as before, as near as I can tell. And I can't see anything they removed.
I can't see anything they removed either. Me and John went over and we read it together pretty, fine-tooth comb-wise, being like, "Was all this red text? Has anything actually changed?" And as far as we can tell, yeah, absolutely nothing. So we're going to be jumping straight into the factions for the faction rules, and there are quite a few here. First of which is for Adeptus Sororitas, the Triumph of Seb Catherine, Relic of the Matriarch, Simulacrum, and Evan Chalice. Change this to read: when a friendly Adeptus Sororitas unit is within 6 of this model, they can perform up to 2 acts of faith per phase instead of only 1. That used to say as many as you had dice, right?
Correct. Yeah, as many acts of faith as they want. It is just 2 now, so it's double, or it's 1 extra depending on how glass half full or empty you are.
Yeah, I already saw like the Triumph was a bit of a coin flip for people in the Sisters Army. I saw some people who were very good with the Triumph because it is in the schemes of Sisters Army, it is like the most unwieldy unit that you can take. And I had people coin flipping whether or not they thought it was good or not. And some people thought it was absolutely busted, and some people thought it wasn't good enough. Now I think she goes on the shelf for a little bit, and experimentation will have to occur because she did absolutely supercharge units within 6 inches as long as you could power those up. And now, what do you think? You think she sits on the shelf for a bit longer, or do you think she's still good enough?
I think she is good enough to take because she's still 125. She no longer is dominating the center of your list. She's no longer that key aspect of how everything works. She no longer is just the centerpiece. But you know what? It was a 125-point centerpiece. Now it's just 125 points for a high OC character that is hard to charge with, but still kind of gets things done. I do not mind the Triumph still, for what it's worth. The last couple games I played with Sisters, I decided to leave her at home, and I did not regret that decision, even as I watched Nick pour all of his Miracle Dice into a single Battle Sisters Overwatch. So I personally would still leave the Triumph at home because I wasn't on her before. However, if you like the Triumph, she is only 125 points. She's not expensive, and she still has good rules.
I agree. I think she's still good enough, but she's not. I mean, I would have made the argument. She wasn't before, and she's definitely not now. But if you are good at using the Triumph, if you have gotten those skills together, because it does take some skill to execute with it, I think she's still worth taking. All right, Adeptus Custodes, mate. What has changed here?
Okay, so they kept everything from the previous balanced data slate. I have it up on a second screen just to make sure. But they added that Adeptus Custodes get a 4-up Feel No Pain against mortal wounds and critical wounds caused by attacks with devastating wounds ability. So
praise freaking
Custodes. Yeah, that is a massive buff for Custodes. Their singular biggest weakness has been somewhat fixed. This is a huge, huge deal for the faction because they used to just get shredded by Dev Wounds. Anything Dev Wounds just turn Custodes inside out.
Is this enough to put? Because I was of the opinion Custodes were already fine. They were, of course, I think they were, middle of the pack, lower middle of the pack, and definitely took a faction specialist to get better than that. Are they going to be back in a big way following this?
In my opinion, yes. We'll talk about it more if we find time to talk about points. I think this alone would have put Custodes directly back into the center of the pack.
Yep, I totally agree.
However, if there were to be any points changes at all, then that would be considered a net buff in my mind.
I think it's a net buff because I think once we get to it, we'll see that Custodes are back. Absolutely back. All right, Eldari. This is holistic, what has occurred to Eldari, and timely. Perfect timing.
God, let's just take a second. We are on, is this version 5 of Eldar?
Yeah. It's version 59.
And just drink it. What? Drink in the souls.
Yeah, I'm just letting it get through my skin. Strands of Fate is the first one. We'll go tit for tat on these. If your army faction is Eldari at the start of the battle, make a Strands of Fate roll by rolling 6d6. Cut in half, baby. Cut in freaking half your Fate dice. How do you feel about that off the cuff?
Honestly, I love it. Less Fate dice. Love it. Less Fate dice feels good. It felt necessary. I am quite okay with less Fate dice. No objection.
I am too. If I
think they could have done like 8.
That's what I was going to say. I thought going from 12 to 6 is going to feel rough. I would have gone to 9 or to 8 before going down to 6. But hey, I'm going to get my little violin out for the rest of this section. Tell us about Face Messenger. Did anything change there?
Once per turn, after making a hit roll wound roll saving throw for the bearer, you can treat the result as an unmodified roll of a 6 instead. So this is no longer for the Bears unit, which means it's not nearly as strong on a leader as it was before. It's much better on a lone character. Notably, this means that a Wraithguard unit is not flipping a hit to a lethal 6 or a wound to a devastating 6 wound.
I'm of the opinion this almost kills the enhancement.
I think it's actually still good on an Autarch Way Leaper, funny enough.
That's what I was about to say. I only like it on a Way Leaper now. I don't think it makes the cut on anything else at all.
Because I don't think Farseers have any devastating wound weapons.
Nah, I don't believe they do either. All right, Phantasm. I don't think Phantasm has changed. One Eldari infantry unit from your army.
Oh, it has.
Yes, it has. Sorry, it has. Your unit can make a normal move up to D6. It cannot embark with in a transport with this move. It's Eldari. It's infantry only, and it's D6. It's not a normal move as it was before. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a normal move up to 7 inches previously. Now it is a normal move of up to D6 inches. This means that the Eldar player no longer has that perfect knowledge of I'm going to go to 6.99 inches in front of this wall, shoot you and bounce, or I'm going to go ahead and put this unit 6.99 from an objective behind a wall, and I just know. Taking away that level of certainty, which I understand Eldar players are going to want to have an army that is all about mitigating risk. This is now just a good stratagem that is risky. It still doesn't have the get within 9 clause. It's still better than some comparable stratagems, but it is no longer what it was. This is a massive change for Eldar.
Totally agree. I'm here for it as well. I think it's still a very good stratagem. It's no longer contending for the best strat in the freaking game now, though. Happy with that. Tell us about Eldrad. I didn't really see this one coming. This one wasn't on my radar as something that needed to happen, but what happened here?
So as far as I can tell, this is just cleaning house. So just cleaning up wording. So Eldrad used to give 3 additional dice, which means that and it said, so you start with 15. Now it says you get 3 additional dice, which means you start with 9, and that's with fate dice. So Eldrad is functionally unchanged. They just had to change the wording so that you didn't accidentally go from 6 dice to 15 by burning. To 15.
And you just know Eldari players would have tried that on. All right, the Night Spinner up next. So change the monofilament web ability to essentially be in line with every other minus and impairing movement one. So instead of it being -2 move, no advance, it's now subtract 2 from its move, advance and charge rolls made for it. So still a very good ability, but it's in line with everyone else's. It's comparable and comparable to everyone else's similar abilities.
It's almost in line because this one isn't infantry only still.
True. That is true. Because most others, have a caveat or have a term and condition that they don't affect X, Y, Z. Yeah, this is still permissive as hell, right?
Yeah. So this means that you can advance. So that's nice. However, if we're being honest, I think -2 to advance and a charge rolls is going to slow an advance and charge unit down significantly.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's still good. It's a net -4 instead of no advance. And
I'm actually impressed.
Yeah, go ahead.
They managed to. No, it doesn't. This feels like a side grade. So I am quite happy that they didn't. So I would have been very happy if they absolutely mollywopped into the sun the Night Spinner, but they managed to, I think, deal with the Night Spinner quite fairly. So I'm not unhappy with this change because I am a fair and reasonable human being at times, and so they managed to not kill the Night Spinner. They kind of side graded it, to be honest. It's still very good.
Sometimes it's better, if you're shooting something that just walks and charges with no advancing, it's better. If you're shooting at something that advances and shoots, then it's worse. Your mileage may vary, but still quite strong. It's just more consistent, which I'm fine with. As a non-balanced change, this is good for just making the game less confusing, although not being infantry only makes me slightly sad. But luckily, we still have 2 more nerfs to go because there are 7 bullet points on this bad boy.
Baby.
Next up, we have
extensive.
Yeah, next up we have the Incarn. So the Incarn is once in each of your turns, if this model is on the battlefield after another is destroyed, blah, 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 teleport. So it's once in each of your turns, which means 2 things. 1, it isn't in your opponent's turn. 2, it is not twice in your turn, because it used to be once per phase in any turn. Now it's once per turn, only your turn. This has multiple relevancies. First, the counterplay is much easier than before. you can still fastball special the Incarn, but you are no longer, dang it, there's a Warwalker on this objective. Do I point enough guns to kill the Warwalker and also the Incarn? Or do I just kill a Warwalker and then an Incarn comes, takes the primary, nothing actually changes?
Yeah. Yep. I think this is huge. I think this is great for balancing of them of one of the single model that's been the biggest problem ever since they decided to write rules that it got to whack-a-mole all over the table in the end of 7th edition. It's been a perpetual issue. This seems relatively fair. I know Yinkan players are going to be gnashing their teeth, being like, rah, 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 this sucks. I don't care. The biggest issue I have with the Yinkan is not what it does on top tables, but what it does on middle and lower tables to people who just aren't familiar or don't have a skill set or aren't as experienced with the game. It just seems like such a lever for somebody to pull to make a game feel bad. And I think this is a fair change for this. But I do think the Yinkan's kind of dead, though. What do you think?
I think she is merely fine. I don't think she's an auto include anymore. However, I will note that other than the reduction in number of fate dice, the Incarn is just as durable as before. She still hits as hard as before.
Yep.
You can still fastball special her the same as before. Yep. She is easier brain power wise to deal with than she was previously, although the same damage output wise. But you have less things to manage when you're trying to deal with her because there's no risk of her accidentally leaving in the middle of your shooting phase.
Correct.
Overall,
that's so much.
Yeah, I think that she is down from a near auto take to perfectly fine. I think you can still take her. She's not going to be bad if you take her. She's a little expensive for a Catan without a Feel No Pain, but she teleports once a game. She gets to do some cool stuff. I think she is merely pretty good.
Yeah, me too. In fact,
she's okay.
My biggest thing is that right now, I think I'd rather have the Avatar of Kane over her. I actually quite like the Avatar, but maybe I'm just crazy.
I agree with that, but once you've taken the Avatar of Kane, you still got points left.
Yes. All right. Wraithguard, a War Construct ability. Essentially, the change here is that when you shoot back, you have to shoot back at the enemy unit that targeted you. And you can only do so if that is an eligible enemy target. So once per battle round, when an enemy unit targets this unit, after the unit has finished making its attacks, this unit can shoot as if it was your shooting phase. When doing so, it must target only that enemy unit and can only do so if it's an eligible target. So if you shoot back with the Wraithguard, you have to shoot the thing that shot you. So you can kind of bait this. You can kind of have more interplay with it. But overall, I still think it's a fair change. What do you think?
Very fair change. This is now in line with, again, other similar abilities. There are plenty of these abilities in the game. All of them that I've seen other than this are shoot back at the thing that shot you, not shoot anywhere you want. This feels very fair, and I'm super happy with it.
It was just wild that, like, up until this point, because what we just said about the Night Spinner, we're like, oh yeah, it's the same as everyone else's, which is fair. And now we just said the same thing about this one and the same thing about, whatever. Phantasm even. It's like Eldar had like the best version of everything up until this point, and now people are going to feel like it's a massive nerf that they're in line with everyone else's equivalents.
Indeed. So 7 changes.
Yeah. We will talk at the end of this about where we think Eldar and some of these other factions are going to be after this has all been all shaken out and been said and done. But the next one is Agents of the Imperium, and it's a bit of a nothing burger. It's just changing war gear on extraction squads, so we're not going to spend any time there.
It's actually it's the exact same as before.
Yeah. Fair. This one is not. Tell us about the change to Astra Militarum, because I love this.
I'm also quite excited. So Astra Militarum got an update to the Voice of Command or Army role. And what this means is that, blah, 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 if your Army faction is Astra Militarum, officers can issue orders, etc. Okay. And it's no longer only in your command phase. So they'll each specify how many orders you give. But here's what matters. Here's the red text. Officer models can issue orders in your command phase and at the end of a phase in which they disembarked from a transport or were set up on the battlefield. So if any of those conditions are met, either in your command phase or at the end of a phase in which they disembarked from a transport or were set up on the battlefield. So you don't even have to do it the second you get out of the transport. But it just means that Guard have a lot more order options than they have previously.
It's like Scion's work now or something.
Yes, it means Scions actually can function now.
Yes.
As well, transports like Chimeras function much better than before.
Yeah, agreed. Because that's my biggest gripe with guard. Because I'm a guard player, you're a guard player. I found them very uninspiring on the table. I found them quite frustrating and inflexible. And this is exactly what I think they needed. Because I like playing mechanized guard, and the mechanized guard just was not a list that functioned. Now, absolutely, it is a thing. All right, Blood Angels. A Red Thirst detachment rule changed to each time a depth of status unit from your army is selected to fight. If that unit made a charge move this turn until the end of the phase, add 2 to the strength characteristic and 1 to the attacks characteristic. So that's just +1 strength. Yeah?
Yep. Yeah, it used to be +1 strength, +1 attacks. It is now +2 strength, +1 attack.
Is that enough of a change, do you think?
It helps. We'll see how points bear out for Space Marines in general and also Blood Angels. However, I think that this actually does take a lot of things to interesting breakpoints. Notably, it takes Power Fists from Strength 8 to 10.
Ooh,
10 is a very noticeable breakpoint.
Yeah.
Strength 4 stuff and Strength 5 stuff going to 6, 7 instead of 5, 6 also creates some interesting breakpoints. You get things like Strength 7 Blade Guard killing or wounding almost every infantry on the game, including a Custodes on a 3. And then you get weird things like Assault Intercessors with Jump Packs, who I think are actually very good. Those at Strength 6, you start wounding tanks on 5s.
Yeah.
Toughness 5 stuff on 3s.
Mm-hmm.
You have access to Lance. I feel like this is actually a quite significant change. That extra point of strength is a relevant breakpoint often for Space Marines. Now, that's still a lower than average detachment in the context of Space Marines. We'll see how their points bear out. I don't think this is going to make Blood Angels insane, but this is a nice change because it only buffs what that detachment should be doing. You're not accidentally buffing Centurions in this.
Yeah, agreed. All right, tell us about Chaos Demons.
So they changed the Demonic Pact rule. And for reference, this is the rule that lets you ally demons to other Chaos factions. All it does is it adds in a sentence. In addition, for each of the following keywords, the gods, the number of non-battle line units with that keyword you include cannot be greater than the number of battle line units with that keyword you include in this way. Khorne, Tzeentch, Nurgle, Slaanesh. What this is actually saying is if you ally in the Changeling, you have to have a Tzeentch battle line unit. If you ally in a Great Unclean one, you have to ally in a Nurgle battle line unit. Shalaxi Hellbane can no longer be an ally in 2,000 point games because once you take that Demonette squad, you are over 500
You can't fit her. Yeah.
Which makes me kind of mad that it essentially made Shalaxi not an ally because I actually just bought a Shalaxi for an Emperor's Children project. I'm hoping gets announced at some point, but never mind.
Yeah, this is huge. Actually, this is a pretty holistic nerf to Chaos because I can't tell you a Chaos faction that doesn't want to take, Nurglings, doesn't want to take Blue Scribes, doesn't want to take Changeling. Hell, even some Flesh Hands are starting to pop up here, there, and everywhere. This essentially, it almost kills demon allies apart from just taking battle line units by themselves because it's almost not worth it. What you're gonna take horrors so you can take the Changeling or the Blue Scribes? You're probably not anymore. You're just gonna take more Nurglings, right?
You're gonna take more of this stuff. It's worth pointing out that there are 5 battle line demon units, not 4. There's the 4 you'd expect, and also Nurglings.
Yeah.
Because Nurglings are just still battle lines. So allied Nurglings, exactly as good as before. To me, that's crazy. I feel like they should have stripped battle line from Nurglings to make this change make sense.
Yep, because right now it just means you only ally Nurglings. Nurglings.
That was kind of the cheese, right? Was that your Chaos Knight army and your Space Marine armies would have 2 or 3 Nurgling units and maybe a lone up, depending on how points worked out. And now you're just cutting the lone up, which I get, but you're just keeping the 2 or 3 units of Nurglings.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it is what it is, man. It's good. It's going to be a little bit of a nerf because the armies that couldn't get any lone up really liked having a little bit of it. But I mean, Nurglings are still absolute gas.
Yeah, I think this is the biggest nerf to Thousand Suns because they can only access Tzeentch. They can't access Nurglings. Correct. Theoretically, World Eaters too, but World Eaters didn't need allies, so it's the same. But now, Thousand Suns actually feel this.
Yeah, Thousand Suns actually feel this pretty hard because you got to take. Can you Blue Horrors their own slot? It's just Pink Horrors, yeah, their own battle line slot.
I think you can take Blue Horrors too. So maybe there's actually 6 battle lines. You definitely can just take pink horrors, but I think blue horrors might actually be battle line now that we're saying it out loud.
I don't hate pink horrors in T-Suns. I don't hate that idea, but it is not Nurglings. It is definitely not Nurglings. All right. Chaos Space Marines have seen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 changes here. The first of which is Marks of Chaos Detachment Rule Restricted Section. A unit can only embark within a transport of a same mark of those listed above. We thought this was coming. This was a lot of people speculated this was the one they didn't want to see because they thought this would absolutely wreck the army. Because what happened was you took Mark of Nurgle on all your rhinos and then chuck whatever units you wanted in it. That's now no longer the case. So if you want Mark of Slanesh Legionaries, you want Mark Undivided Chosen, you cannot chuck them in a Nurgle or rhino. So that means your transports are very, very vulnerable now. Or you have to take Mark of Nurgle, which is a kind of nothing burger. So on those units. Is this huge?
This is huge. If I were to wish list as a fan of the game, I actually wish that Undivided transports could hold everyone.
Me too. I wish you could do Undivided and take everybody. But this is mostly just a nerf to the Nurgle Rhino, yeah? Because the Nurgle Rhino was extremely frustrating.
Yeah, and I just think everyone hated the fact that you could get Nurgle sustained 5 hits on a Slanesh unit shooting out a Rhino because technically it was a Nurgle Rhino with a Blastmaster. It wasn't a Noise Marine anymore. It was
dumb.
But agreed, they have in several ways dismantled it. Let's just move on to the next one, shall we?
Because this one's, I feel like this one's unnecessary when you take in the ramifications of the first one, but they did this one too. So tell us about it.
This is necessary. Change Dark Obscuration Stratagem. Change blah blah blah. Basically, all that happens is they changed it from 12 inches to 18. I could read the whole strat, but this is the stratagem that lets a Nurgle unit get there can only be selected as the target range attack if that attacking model is within X. It used to be 12, and now it is 18. So, and in my opinion, this was most heinous on Forge Fiends because that shooting piece not being able to be shot back was criminal. But that has changed to 18, not 12, and so that is a big deal.
Mostly what was the big deal was that so in the little chess match, especially in the reserves or whatever chess match, you'd have the Forge Fiend walk on from a table edge, or it'd be starting on the table in a firing lane, and it would just shoot you if it could. But if you tried to shoot it, it would hit the big red button and be like, you can't shoot me, and now you've exposed yourself for no gain. And then it would just pick you up, or they'd come at you with Chosen. And now, it's a lot easier, especially a lot easier to attack this unit from reserve as well, because it was very easy for them to screen out the 12 and then hit the button.
18.
And now it's 18. So it's a lot harder.
18's a whole other beast. Yeah, I think this is a great change.
Yeah. All right. Profane Zeal is up next. And this was the Undivided, oops, I rerolled everything strat, which is kind of wild that they took that away pretty much from the entire game, except for this strat. And now they've taken away from this strat too. So the target has changed. So Chaos Undivided, of course. You reroll the wound roll. So I am happy that they kept the better part of the stratagem. You don't get to reroll hits now, but you do still get to reroll wounds. I do still think this is a very good stratagem. It does not kill it. It has nerfed it quite substantially, but I think it's nerfed it by a third, because if it was just hits, not wounds, it would be ruined. Rerolling to wound is easily the better side of this stratagem. Do you think it's still a mover and shaker?
It's still a mover and shaker. It's definitely worse. So let's talk about, there's two layers to this. So the first is that for an Undivided unit using this stratagem, you can reroll the wounds. When a Undivided unit packs, remember that it rerolls ones. So it takes, for example, an Undivided Forge Fiend from hitting on 3s, reroll everything, to hitting on 3s, reroll ones. But it still gets the full wound reroll. So if you're just a Chaos Space Marine unit activating a normal way, it's not a huge change. However, a hit modifier of any kind, shooting or combat, wherever you're using this is going to get felt. If a Chosen hits a Custodes on a 4 rerolling ones, that is not the same.
True. Very true. And very good call. Because, you're right. If you can, exactly right. If you're hitting on 3s, rolling 1s, and rolling to wound, apart from milking more sustained and more lethals from your pact, whatever pact roll you did, you did take away some efficiency there, but it's not at the end of the world at all. In fact, I think it's still a very good stratagem. If you could tell me I could have a 1 CP reroll wounds, I'd be like, yes, please. How many, sir, can I have? Thank you. And you can still, Absolutely. This is still, they didn't change the fact that this is a battle tactic you can double up on with your Chaos Lords and stuff, yeah?
Nope. Still battle tactic. Still a great strat. There is a second layer to this that I want to unpack, though, because I don't think we've touched on it yet. The target also changed. It is now one Heretic Astartes undivided unit. This used to be like all the 5 god strats.
Yeah.
They used to be do X, or if you have the mark, do Y. So only an undivided unit can use this strat now. You can't use this on a Nurgle unit to reroll 1s and 1s.
True. There you go. That is actually a decent change. That is, yeah.
So only undivided can use this, and that's a big deal. So they've really taken some of the strat efficiency of CSM apart.
So yeah, their 2 best strats, I think, have both been hit pretty well. Of course, being the Dark Obfuscation and your Profane Zeal. The Accursed Cultists have taken 2 hits, which I think is they're both very fair. Firstly, they're now OC1 instead of being OC2. The whole unit is. Praise be. It was so annoying. And the second one being they only regen at the start of your command phase. So there's no healing in both, which I always thought was just kind of busted. Now healing once and only being OC1, they are a lot harder for them. It's a lot harder for them to just regen, take objectives off you, which I used to see happen all the freaking time. People would be like, oh, yeah, I'll half kill the unit, then I'll run and take the objective. And then we're like, ha ha, fool, you've walked right into my trap. How do you feel about these? And are these big enough, significant enough to kill off the Cursed Cultist lists?
Yes, I think these are good changes. I think especially when we factor in part 2 of this equation, I think they did enough. I think a Cursed Cultist getting hit by, spoiler alert, a triple whammy is enough.
Yep. Because of course they do not hit good, so them losing reroll hits portion of the Profane Zeal strat is significant. I think. I think they feel it more than anybody else in the Chaos Space Marine lineup because they just don't hit as good. They hit on 4s. Yeah, I'm not crazy.
Yeah, it's a massive volume of weapon skill 4 attacks, and reroll hits on that is real good.
Yeah. Okay. Holistically, over to Chaos Space Marines, the only question is, who got hit harder, Eldari or CSM?
I'm glad that we're having this conversation in the context of, they actually both got hit. I will say, considering how many FAQs we have received for Eldar, looking at the rules changes only, I feel that Games Workshop firmly landed on the correct side of the line. There's always there's the perfect line of they nerfed them just enough, but not too much. And we never know exactly where that line is until we look back with the benefit of hindsight, where we can say that Eldar fell short of the line the last time they nerfed Eldar. However, I think that Games Workshop crossed the line on both of these. I don't know if either one of them got hit too hard, but I don't think either of them got dealt too soft. I think they gave them both. I think they both took enough nerfs that they are not going to be meta-dominant armies anymore. And we'll check in to see. Honestly, I think CSM got hit harder because I think Eldar still has a deeper pool than CSM did. The top end of CSM was just as good, but the pool of Eldar is deep.
Exactly right. It was only the best bits of CSM that could hang with Eldar. Whereas I actually think, now that I look at the changes to Chaos Space Marines, in addition to the change to the fact that their allies got a lot more awkward, I do think Chaos Space Marines got hit harder than Eldar. I think Eldar has more ability to adapt and move around these units. I don't know what the second layer of Chaos Space Marines was. It's what Abian Terminators again, probably, which is fine, but it is not hanging with, it is not the same beast. All right, Death Guard up next. Everything's virtually the same here, with the exception of addition to the Biologist Putrefier has been changed. So it's pretty much been that the grenade, the extra grenade goodness ability can only be used once per turn now, if I'm reading this right.
Each Biologist Putrefier has the ability to throw a 0 CP grenade even if someone else has done it once per game. They've changed this so that only one Biology Professor per turn can choose to do this. So you can't have one turn where you throw 4 grenades. If you take 3 Professors, you could have 3 turns with 2 grenades, where you throw a grenade, throw a second, throw a grenade, throw a second.
Yeah.
But I'm very okay with this.
I'm totally okay with this because I mean, Custodes armies would just like walk into the middle and then like your three Putrefier units get out and like the whole army gets deleted. And it was just rough. It was a great way of dealing with the Incarn in the past also. This is a good change. I think this is a fair change. But apart from that, I don't think it kills the units. Maybe you don't see 3 of these anymore. Maybe it's 1 or 2 professors for key turns. But yeah, I think auto taking 3 is debatable now. Did anything actually change for Death Watch? They threw out their big old paragraph, but I don't think anything's changed.
No, they did not. I've already done the comparison. Death Watch is identical to before. I was frankly, like, fingers crossing for some kind of a rollback. We did not receive it. Death Watch is identical to previous.
Yeah, I was actually hoping they'd undo some of this stuff. But it is what it is. They're still in a very awkward place. And yeah, I just no two ways, no other way of cutting it. Drukhari, though, lots to talk.
Yeah, so let's add a bit of context. I don't think we're reading it at this second. There is a new detachment for Drukhari. That is not what we're referring to here. So this would all apply if theoretically you took the old detachment, which to my understanding still exists. Drukhari just have 2 ADEX detachments now.
Correct. Yeah, they realized the one that they wrote doesn't do anything, so they gave him another one that does things. And if we have time, we will unpack that as well. If not, I'll probably just do it next week. But it is significant. It is a significant change. The power from pain ability, empowered through pain section, has changed to read as thus: each time a model in that unit makes an attack, you can reroll the hit roll. That's the same as it is now. And if it is a melee attack, improve the armor penetration characteristic of that attack by 1. That is everything Drukhari players have been wanting. Letting their melee do a thing. It's still not great melee, but now hopefully it scratches the paint at least.
Yeah, this changes a lot of units. We'll talk about some specific ones in like 30 seconds, where a lot of their melee units were AP1 with a smattering of AP2, and now it's a lot of AP2 with a smattering of AP3, and that is a massive glow up for Drukhari. I think that this was a good change.
I don't think anybody's melee profiles took the addition change as bad as Drukhari. It felt like Drukhari...
I can think of one.
Drukhari in 9th edition just had AP at the wazoo. Like, they had like AP3 on lock, AP4, sometimes on demand. And now they went back to 0 and 1 AP as like their standard. And it just was not enough to make their toughness 3 chassis do anything notable in the game. But continue, tell us more.
Okay. The next part of this is that the Archon has had its leader section changed, and it basically added the option to join Incubi. So this probably seems like, if you're not familiar with Drukhari, you probably were like, wait a minute, they couldn't join Incubi? And that's true. Archons could not join Incubi in current 10th edition 40k for reasons unknown to all. However, they have fixed the very obvious problem where an Incubi can now be joined by the guy that they are bodyguarding for.
Yeah, they're literally hired to be the bodyguard for Archons, and then they're like, "Nah, forget all of that. I've never heard of it. We'll see you later." It was quite ridiculous. So Drukhari definitely one to watch. Already just from that AP change, they're already on the rise. GSC, what changed here, if anything?
As far as I can tell, nothing changed for Jin's Cult. Their rules are identical to before, so you still get the same ability to come back. It's a 5+ +1 for battle line, +1 if it's turn 1 or 2, or battle round 1 or 2. The Adel Jackals still get the exact same very minor change. They can be set up to the 9 of a board edge. Nothing significant. And that's only when when they return from Cult Ambush. So this is, as far as I can tell, the exact same thing. On to Grey Knights?
Yeah, dude. So Grey Knights, yay, we get to say those words. Haloed in Soulfire, I think was in the previous one. It's now a strategic ploy. But here is the big deals. Nemesis Dread Knights are back on the menu in a big way. They completely revamped most of their offensive outputs, most of their weapons outputs. Heavy Sight Cannon, Demon Hammer, and a great sword profiles have been changed as such. The Heavy Sight Cannon has now got Ignores Cover and is AP2, so 6 shots at BS3, strength 10 -2, 3 damage. That is very good now with Ignores Cover. AP2 Ignores Cover is, AP3. The Great Hammer now hits on a 3 instead of hitting on a freaking 4 with AP3 on the Great Hammer. So that's 5 attacks at strength 14, AP3, D6 +1 damage. I quite like that a lot, especially for when you consider tank shock opportunities. And then the Great Sword hits on 2s with the same profile as previously. This is kind of huge for getting this unit back on the table, yeah?
Yeah, AP +1 and Ignore Cover practically is the same as +2 AP 80% of the time.
Yeah.
So the heavy side cannon getting ignore cover and AP2, massive change. It's really nice for them. And then +1 weapon skill just makes sense with what those weapons were, because watching a demon great hammerhead on the floor is pathetic.
It was so bad.
I think
so bad.
So I have two thoughts on this. One, these changes for the Dread Knight all felt very easy to justify, and they will all go a long way towards making it a playable unit. I'm not yet confident that it's a good unit. I know it's no longer a bad unit. Where it lands in the middle of that, we're still kind of figuring it out. We'll actually have to see some games, of course, but it's very much right direction, because I hate that not only were Grey Knights probably below average, they also felt mono build below average. And if you're a bad book with one build, it's just a little depressing. I love that they have kept an option for something else open. That makes me very happy.
Yeah, so in the previous field manual, they had a holistic points drop that saw very little change in their results, as far as I can tell. It essentially was just I have an army of 2+ armor saves and not a huge amount of bodies, and either 2+ armor saves. I'm going to ride that wave through this because I don't kill anything. Either we're going to get through on our 2+ saves, or we are not. It was essentially like playing Spicy Custodies. Now at least they have a little bit more damage output to kind of equal the scales. I am a Grey Knight player. And if I was playing Grey Knights right now, I'd be definitely starting with 2 Dread Knights in my lists and just seeing if I wanted to go down to 1 or up to 3 from there, or down to 0 up to 4. Get a freaking Grandmaster in there as well, and then just take it from there. But yeah, I'd start slapping 2 in and just seeing how I like them.
I will say I'm very encouraged that they did this. Grey Knights needed some kind of change to the Dread Knight to keep it relevant. It wasn't a points problem; it was a output problem. With that said, Grey Knights. The Dread Knight is the only thing, I'll just spoil the rest of this, that got this kind of a change. And I do not think they're the only thing that needed this kind of change.
100% agree.
We can be happy for Grey Knights without what about meing with Tyranids. I'm with anyone. And however, we can look to the future and just say that if Games Workshop notices that there are other armies, again, the 2 that spring to mind to me the most are AdMech and Tyranids as armies whose profiles feel like their weapons aren't what they should be.
Yeah.
If those armies start to show a struggling win rate and GW feels the need to change them, it is gratifying to see that is a thing they're willing to consider.
Yeah, because this represents essentially spot fixing. Like, okay, the army is languishing on the damage front. What is a unit that doesn't do enough damage that thematically should? Okay, I'll go in and I'll just rewrite. They'll rewrite the offensive outputs, or add a weapon skill here, bliss skill there, a rend or a keyword. I like that they've shown they're willing to do that. That's actually, you're right. Yes. That is very encouraging. Okay, on to Imperial Knights. So I think the code Chivalric Lelo the Tyrant has been clarified now. Each time this model is selected to shoot or fight, you can re-roll 1 hit roll and you can re-roll 1 wound roll. That is a significant buff on what it was, right? Because it was re-roll 1 or 1/1. Yeah, and now it's 1 hit and you can re-roll 1 wound. So this is, I see no reason to not take this 99.9% of the time now.
This definitely has moved up in the world, because the upper limit of this, which is rerolling a hit and rerolling a wound, is the same. It just removes those feel bads when a Warglaive walks up and rolls a 2 to hit.
Correct.
Rolls a 2 to wound, and you're like, oh, wow, this is garbage. So
yes,
I love this. I think this is a nice small buff for Knights. On a high output Knight, it doesn't change much because you were able to use that reroll most of the time. But quite frankly, sometimes you just rolled a 2 or something, and you're like, oh, cool, I don't get to use my rule. And that always felt bad. This feels like a positive change. It's nice. It's not everything I ever wanted, but it's nice.
Yeah. Did anything else change for Knights? A lot of people, me included, expected them to roll back 1 and or multiple of the nerfs that they took. The one I would have rolled back is just the Bondsman ability, letting it affect big Knights again. They have not done that. In fact, I don't know if anything else here has changed.
Nothing else has changed. Bondsman ability nerf is exactly the same as before. This is massively disappointing to me. What I want my big guys to get their buffs. I understand why they don't anymore. With that said, what breaks my heart is that it's still only 1 Armiger. I really wanted to be pick 2 Armigers. Yeah. Like because it used to be pick 1 Armiger, 1 big. Now it's pick 1 Armiger. I wish they would do 2 Armigers instead of 1 Armiger, 1 big. I would prefer 1 Armiger, 1 big, but I wish until then they would at least let it live in the middle. I expect we are continuing to live in a world where there are as many or more bigs than Armigers, and you're barely buffing them at all, if ever.
Yeah. Exactly right. Has Leagues of Votan changed? They've got a section here, but I can't see anything that is as notably different.
Leagues of Votan, and I'll save you the time, the Space Marine afterwards have it not changed in any fashion.
Yep. Straight on to Space Wolves then. What's changed here? Or is this completely new?
It's changed. So they reprinted the entire D's Worthy of Saga detachment rule from the Space Wolf thing.
Yep.
However, they changed it so that it is now checked at the end of each player's turn.
Yes.
Instead of, I believe it was at the end of the battle round. I'm actually going to really quick open up the old rule to compare side by side. I know that this is only for the Space Wolf detachment, which means I politely am less than interested in it as a player. Yeah, it used to be at the end of the battle round. Now it is at the end of of each turn.
That doesn't seem to be a game changer to me. I wish they had gotten possibly a little bit more, but they got something.
Mm-hmm. And they did go down through the line, and a lot of the sagas that referenced battle round now reference turn, as you'd expect.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is kind of nice because it means if you can pull off one of you can actually gain these, because there's this problem where you just really couldn't practically achieve all of these because there were only 4 end of battle rounds to check, right? Because at the end of battle round 5, it didn't matter what you had.
Yep.
And so it was very hard to gain all of these, nigh impossible. However, if you have a turn where you're able to kill a character because they charged you and you challenged them out and killed them, or a vehicle because you wrapped it in combat and stuck there, you can now unlock more than one of these
in a battle round.
In a battle round.
Yeah,
it's I think nice. This does not feel impactful at all.
It really doesn't. It feels nice, but yeah, exactly right. World Eaters is last. Of course it is. Berserker Glaive, dead. Kill it with fire. No, it's not. It's add 1 attack to the attacks and damage instead of D3. So it used to be like the ceiling on this thing was utterly insane. And now it is just +1 attack and damage to melee weapons equipped by.
That is still an enhancement that most armies would enjoy.
Absolutely. +1 damage on any enhancement. Any enhancement that is +1 damage is one of the better damage increasing enhancements in the game. You know, a lot of the ones that like Space Marines have access to is +1 strength. And you're like, no, thank you. Yeah.
And then Favorite of Khorne has received a change as well. This was an enhancement that let you re-roll the Blessings of the Blood God roll. It has been changed to once per battle when you make a Blessings of Khorne roll. So this enhancement gives you a reroll on the game of the Blessings of Khorne roll.
I will say, jumping ahead a little bit, it did go down in points, I think, to adjust for the fact that it's probably worthless. And you take it because it's worth. I think it's only 10 points now. I'll let you know when we get to that if we get to it. But I think it is quite a bit cheaper, which means you may still take it if you just got the awkward amount of points left at the end. But this is not the be all end all it used to be. It used to be this was an auto take.
Yeah, I think something to point out, and the World Eaters experts know better than me, is that World Eaters often didn't have a surplus of characters to carry enhancements.
Correct.
So it may no longer be worth it for the World Eaters players to take enough characters that this registers. However,
exactly
if
right,
you have a spare character and it's cheaper, and I'm actually scrolling down now just so that we can just give you the information. Yeah, the World Eaters enhancement Favorite of Khorne went down to 20. I don't know what it was before, but it is down to 20.
Yeah. It used to be that you had to take a Lord on Juggernaut because you'd have the Mo with the Berserker's Glaive, Lord Invocatus can't take anything, can't take anything, Angron can't take anything. So people would literally bring a Juggernaut Lord just to take Favorite of Khorne. And now I think that guy's superfluous, which is good because it's probably going to help you free up a couple of points to do some things differently, hopefully. The last dot point of this balanced data slate, mate, read it for us.
Yep, this is... Let's switch tabs. There we go. All right, the World Eaters Demon Prince has had its Infernal Fortitude ability change. While friendly World Eaters infantry has been stationed on this model, new models in that unit have a 5-up invulnerable save unless they already have an invulnerable save, in which case they have a 4-up invulnerable save. So this is, again, there's 2 layers to this, one of which is stupid and hilarious. Here's the first one. The Jackal spam and Berserkers could get a 4-up invulnerable before, and now they get a 5-up invulnerable. The 8-bound are unchanged. They already have an invul, so they just always get a 4-up invul. This basically stops Jackal spam.
It does, which already kind of was a meme. But
maybe they just didn't like it.
I
More
guess
so than they thought it was too good. However,
exactly right.
would you like to hear the stupid part?
Let's hear it.
If you can get that Jackal unit to go to ground, they get a 6-up invuln, and then they get a 4-up invuln.
That is funny as hell, actually.
I get, which you know what? I'm not even mad about it, right? Cultists with a 5-up invuln can spend a CP to get a 4-up invuln. Sure, okay, I'm fine with that. I really am.
Totally fine.
It's just a little funny.
All right, that brings us to the end of the balanced data slate. We're going to talk about biggest movers and shakers here, and of course the two elephants in the room being Eldari and CSM both getting dealt holistically and pretty ferociously. But the nerfs there are pretty plain to see. And who's got small nerfs or small buffs in the middle of the pack that's going to possibly seem more impactful the longer this edition goes?
Yeah. So for what it's worth, I think that there were more nerfs than buffs here.
Agreed.
The average strength of the game feels like it has gotten minorly lower. So first up to the small losers are our sisters. The small winners are Astra Militarum and Blood Angels. And then Drukari, I think it's actually a quite decent change. IK are a small winner, which is unfortunate because they're pretty low. Grey Knights are a decent winner. I feel like Custodes is most improved.
I think Custodes is easily most improved. Going from having no detachment rule to having a very good detachment rule now is huge to me, is very, very, very impactful. They're the only army in the game that has devastating wounds defense. They're the only one in the game now. That in itself is unique, spicy, and I'm here for it. I think it's cool.
I was actually hoping, because I think a lot of people were speculating on this change. This one felt like the mark locking for CSM, where every single mention of a balanced data slate mentioned this. For like months. And I think most of it was speculation. Maybe GW leaked it. Maybe GW saw it and was like, yeah, that's a good point. Maybe they just happened parallel. However, I really wish that they had instead gone in and said any defense against mortal wounds gives protection system. Because there's a couple other things where it's like, okay, I have mortal wound protection. Oh man, a Forge Fiend shot me. Glad this doesn't help.
Yes.
Just a little deal.
Oh man, you mean the Lion would have possibly had one good ability?
Yes, I'm specifically referring to the Lion.
Anyway.
Custodes feel like big winners of the balanced data slate. A couple other people went up who deserved it. A couple people went down who deserved it. I think CSM lost the most.
I think CSM lost the most. They lost their allies. They lost their lone-up allies. They lost all the best portions of their army. Got knocked with nothing getting buffed that we know of yet, because we're about to go through some of the points. We probably don't have time to go through all the points because my work day starts in an hour and we've got to record a part 2. But let us just go holistically through, I guess, some of the big movers and shakers. Is there any that you see that have really changed? I mean, we could probably scroll down through each one, or I can just leave it till next week and we'll just do the points next week.
For points, up to you. I'm very happy to speed run the points. I can be quite quick with this if you want, or if you want this to be something that you fine tooth comb, feel free to save it for another one.
I think we'll do 5. I think we'll fine tooth comb it. We'll do it next one. We'll just do our hot takes on who got the biggest hits and biggest buffs out of the point changes. Off the cuff, how do you feel, mate? Give me one big winner out of the points.
Do you mind if I reference points in this?
No, go for it, man.
Okay, great. I didn't know who. I mean, I figure everyone's already gonna know. Custodes also got cheaper. The Custodian Guard and Custodes War. Only the Custodes units that were being used got cheaper. Insanity. Not all the Forge World stuff. Not the Dreadnoughts. Not the Land Raiders. Not Trajan. Specifically, Custodes got a rules buff. Then they got cheaper on Wardens and Guard.
So unintuitive, because usually you'd see the opposite. Also, GW, great freaking job. Yay, our points changes are red if they've gone up, green if they've gone down. So you can just look at these and see what has changed. And usually you would see the stuff that people do not take is going down. Venerable Contemptor Dreadnoughts, which, Vigilators, any of the Forge World stuff that isn't a Venatari or a Caladius Grav Tank. But no, we have had Alaris Custodians, Custodian Guard, Wardens. All the best bits that people were already taking has gone down. Custodians are absolutely back on the menu, and I would not be surprised if they're hunting top tables again very soon.
I fully expect that. Something I'll mention, though, is that the bikes did get cheaper. Bikes went down 5 points per model. That doesn't seem like a big deal.
Doesn't
the
seem like
Shield Captain on Dawn Eagle jet bike went down 40 points.
Yes, I cannot explain to you why that happened, but that guy is worth looking at again, I think.
Yeah, 40 points is just like, oh man, maybe I do. I like that. It's actually not bad in my opinion. So overall, I think we've got really good stuff for Custodes. Again, Custodes stonks up. I think they are firmly an above average army, especially when you factor in that the top end just got cut down. And you know what? I'm just going to mention one thing from the designer's commentary. They clarified that if you ignore mods, you actually ignore all mods. That means Trajan now ignores Armor of Contempt and damage reduction. So you suddenly have a Catan answer on a faction that just got a Devil encounter and just got cheaper. And we've already seen Custodes rocket through this edition. I actually have a suspicion Custodes are going to be problematic, like top 3 or 4 in the game.
I would be putting them on a podium position right now. I'd probably be putting them as third. I think I know who is first. I think we all know who's likely to be first right now, and we'll speak it to in a couple of minutes. Chaos Demons. Nurglings went up, Blue Scribes went up. Apart from that, like it feels like 3/4 of the rest of the army went down, which is very good. I do not know by how much. I haven't had quite a chance to unpack that. But anything jumping out at you that has gone down there that could be significant. I mean, we got Demon Ants at 110.
Yeah, I've got one for you. The Great Unclean one is down to 230 points.
Yes,
that is monstrously cheap. That is, you can take 2 Great Unclean ones or 2 or 3 and Scabathrax or whatever his name is, Rodigus.
Yeah, Rodigus.
You can take a large number of very thick Great Unclean ones for very cheap.
Nice.
230 is cheap. A Keeper of Secrets went down 40. I think demons are going to enjoy that a lot of their stuff got cheaper, but some of the monsters got cheaper too, and I think those monsters are going to be seen.
I love the monsters went down. I do not know why they went up previously. I didn't think that was at all an erroneous build. And just to encapsulate, I think Nurglings went up 5 points.
Correct. They went from 35 to 40. They very much went.
And Blue Scribes up 10. I think were they 65 or were they 70? They're now 75.
I think they were 65.
Yes, I think they went up 10. I still think the Blue Scribes is fine, but you're going to see them a lot less because it's just going to be Nurglings, and 5 points is not enough to change that.
Yeah, you'll still take the agents in the demon army, just less so out of it.
Chaos Knights, Brigand went up 10 points. That is going to shake up the metrics a little bit on your all dogs list. Every big knight went down. Every single big knight went down.
Except the Rampager.
Except the Rampager. Yeah, I don't sure if any of the big knights went down. Yeah, I think any of the big knights went down enough to really shake things up. I think it's all dogs all the time still, but the points are going to get a little more awkward. But good news, you're not taking any lone ops anymore. It's just going to be baby knights and Nurglings.
We skipped one that I want to call out. We skipped Black Templars.
Yes.
Black Templars got an update on the Crusader squad that essentially went up 10 points a model. Hellbrecht went up a little bit. Here's the big one. Sword Brethren did not even flinch.
Oh, unchanged, baby.
That's massive. I feel like Black Templars, by win rate, were easily the best Space Marine.
Agreed.
I would agree that the win rate was right. I think they were the best Space Marine chapter. I think the strength of Black Templars didn't change at all.
I don't think it changed
and
at all,
we're seeing CSM and Eldar nerfs, big nerfs, and we're seeing Black Templars. Now, there are generic Space Marine changes that everyone will feel equally. However, Black Templars, the things that made them good into Gladius didn't change. Black Templars are just the best chapter right now.
Agreed.
No, I just don't think. Yeah.
I don't think it's close anymore. Unfortunately, once we get to the other changes, I think the only thing I would say that the Ultramarines Vanguard was, with the right pilot, the best Space Marine list. With if you're willing to put 30-40 reps into the thing, but apart from that, it was Templars all day every day because they had the biggest spread of detachments they could make good. Essentially every detachment you could take a good Black Templars list in, and so they were just the ubiquitous choice apart from exactly one option, that being the Ultramarines Vanguard. Once we go through the Space Marines, and we're doing this, by the way, I don't know, what were we talking about? We're just going to go through this quickly, talk about the big moves and shakers. I might do a more holistic review next week, but it seems like we're doing this. We're just doing it.
I think Black Templars, you're doing it anyways.
Accidentally doing it. Black Templars, 100%. Best in slot Space Marines. I don't believe there is a close second anymore.
Mhm.
Blood Angels untouched points wise, which is a little bit disappointing, but it is what it is. I think they're still kind of fine. I could have seen a couple of points dropped on, like the Sanguinor or Dante or something like that would have been totally fine. We already did Demons, already did Chaos Knights, Chaos Space Marines. Absolutely smacked.
Yeah.
Everything
They took a lot more changes than Eldar, which is hilarious.
Dude, did we do Eldar? Did we do?
No, they're later.
Eldar had exactly. No, they're not. They're before this. We actually skipped a couple. Eldar had exactly 2 changes, and that was Night Spinners went up, Wraithguard went up, everything else stayed the same, and so that's kind of wild. Night Spinners at 210 is a hard pill to swallow. Maybe you take 1 now.
I still think you take 2.
Man, 420 points for 2 Night Spinners. Holy crap! That's how good they are, probably. But with way less fate dice,
I don't know. It's tough. Yeah, it's tough. I think even though it sounds ridiculous to say Eldar only got 2 changes, they received 7 bullet points. I'm willing to let this ride.
Well,
and I'm not going to complain about Eldar's changes. I think they actually took enough.
I think this is correct, though. I actually absolutely think this is correct because I thought the Eldar points were on a knife edge already, in that if you holistically hit their points again by like 10 or 15%, 12%, whatever, their army just had nothing in it. Their army was just like had no freaking units in it. And so I think this was the only way they could do this and Eldar maintain any semblance. Because if they got hit with the points as well as what they got, they'd be dead. They'd be absolutely dead. Now I still think they are a good middle of the pack, upper middle of the pack army at kind of worst. Angels in the Imperium untouched. Astra Militarum untouched with the exception of the Manticore going up to 180, which is significant, but I think it's totally fine, totally acceptable. I think it's
acceptable. I think they'll have more diverse builds, and the most cancerous part of them is removed. I'm fine with it as a guard player. I didn't like spamming Manticores. I didn't want to take 3. I'm okay with this.
I'm totally okay with this. And the fact that the playbook for Astra Militarum has just been blown wide open by the Dataslate change to orders, I think they're not even going to feel that change. We did Blood Angels, we did Demons, we did Chaos Knights, we are on to Chaos Space Marines. Okay, back to Chaos Space Marines. Everything good went up. Nothing went down, except for the Khorne Lord of Skulls, and who freaking cares? Because it's not the world, it is one. Mate, how bad is this for CSM?
So Cursed Cultist up 10 per 8. Chaos Lord up 20, Chosen up 20 per 5, Dark Commune up, I think only like 10. But that means that a full Cursed Cultist Brick went up 30, Forge Fiend up 20, Warp Talons up 10, Obliterators up like 10. I worry that CSM are going to fall, especially with the nerf. I worry that CSM are going to fall just on the wrong side of good.
Me too.
I think they're going to be a little bit below average now. And you know what? After that reign of terror, I would rather GW swing maybe too hard, maybe not.
Yeah.
And then maybe in April, if CSM are just a little too expensive, maybe we give them 10 points in a bunch of spots.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed.
However, I think that they did enough.
I feel like this is possibly a half step too far, but I'm not unhappy with it. I agree, but I think I would rather this be what they do. I would have loved to have seen 1 or 2 things go down here in addition to this, and it could have just been stuff like freaking Havocs went down 5 or 10 points.
Drakes, yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. Possessed, I don't know, just Raptors, because for some reason Warp Talons went up. I don't know, Warp Talons weren't hurting anybody. They were just a good utility unit. But the rest of it's pretty self-explanatory. I will note, just holistically, in this entire balanced data slate, anything that does have the option to shoot indirect fire has gone up. Just as a blanket rule, has gone up.
There's an exception for that in Orcs. Rocket Truck went down.
Okay, except for Orcs.
But a lot of
I should say. Yeah, I should have said if it was good, it could shoot indirect.
That is true. Every good indirect piece that I'm aware of went up. The Exorcist went up. Like there will be less indirect, I think.
But look, I still think there's some plays here for Chaos Space Marines. I just think that it's a fair whack down from where they were. Like they had a top tier builds, and now they have middle of the pack builds at absolute best. It could be a struggle street for CSM for a little bit. Dark Angels had a lot go down. Praise be. Oh, look, the Deathwing Command Squad went down. Yay! It doesn't exist anymore. But Deathwing Knights are at 235, so they are unchanged from the previous one, but they are not 290. Thank God. So what you said last week was probably correct. At 235, 5 of them, not the worst thing in the world. May still see some play. Anything else you're seeing here? Black Knights, dude. Black Knights at 90 for 3, 180. I am a fan. I am down for this.
Yeah, that seems all relatively fair for Dark Angels. We'll see if the parts of this that are not in the new codex are just removed and then the rest of these points stay the same. The Vengeance going down 20 points is just enough to give me optimism, not enough to make me put on the table. But Black Knights getting cheaper is genuinely encouraging because their old points, they felt like they did not do enough.
It's a lot cheaper. It's a lot.
It is.
It's 25 points.
Well, I thought they were 110 before.
115.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
115
and
145
points for a 6-man.
Yeah.
It's
nice.
In my opinion, this actually makes that 9-man block of Ravenwing Black Knights suddenly worth looking at again, which I am very happy for them.
290 for 9 Black Knights. With various whatevers, could be advance and charge in Stormlands, could be, I like him in the Firestorm, advance and shoot, and then +1 to wound if you get close enough, and +1 strength. I actually quite like that a lot. But yeah, I think this is very nice for that build. The the Deathwing Terminator squad is 190 for 5, 380. What was it?
I think that's down like 5 points. I don't think it's significant at all.
No, it's down 15. So it was 205 previously. Wow. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad.
Okay. Yeah. And all that seems fine, and we'll see when they remove the stuff that no longer has rules.
Yeah. Death Guard, mate. What happened here?
Plague Marines went up a little bit. Plague Abyss Crawler went up a little bit. Again, nothing crazy, but up a little bit. Like the PBC went to 180 from 165. Plague Marines went from 80 to 90 for 5. I think
you are correct. I think I've been looking at the wrong points document.
Fair enough.
You're absolutely correct, mate. Because in this one, I had Plague Marines at 100 points. So according to this one, Plague Marines went down, whereas they're coded as red. So I think I've got the wrong one up. Apologies if anything I said up to this point was incorrect. There is a lot of documents in my document folder.
I've had it open the whole time, so I was there to help you.
Did you catch me?
Yeah, Death Shrouds went up very small. Down. Fetid Blight Drones went down 10 points, which is nice. Lord of Virulence went down 10. I think he went down 20. That's nice. Typhus went down 20 points. Typhus and Lord of Virulence both getting 20 points cheaper, and then the Death Shrouds getting cheaper. That's actually appealing to me. Now, Plague Marines went up a little bit. That's probably fair. PBC went up a little bit. I think that's fair. Death Guard were good, not crazy. They kept all your points the same. They gave you small buffs, took some small nerfs. I think the biggest nerfs to Death Guard are actually in the allied department, with the Brigand going up to the point that you can no longer include 3, and also Demon Allies, but you're still just going to take the Nurglings part of it, I think, and call it a day.
Yeah, agree with that.
So not huge nerfs at all, the Death Guard, and I think Death Guard will be happy with the top stuff getting hit harder than they did, and they got a couple new things to try.
Yes, they do have a couple of new things to try, which I think is exciting for them. Hopefully, they get a little bit more of a playbook. Death Watch is unchanged, which is a little bit annoying because I feel like they're paying overs, especially for their Proteus kill teams, and some of the kill teams could definitely have gone down.
Then Drukhari, we see a lot go down.
Yeah, baby. The Void Wave from Bomber went up for some freaking reason. I don't know who was getting bad touched there, but it is what it is. Apart from that, hellacious drops all across the list.
Yeah, Drazar down 15, Grotesques down 5 points per model.
Yeah, baby.
Hellions down 15 points for 5. Incubi down 5 points for 5. Talos down, Succubus down, Reavers down, Raider down, Venoms down. A lot of things went down. When we cover the detachment, we'll talk about why this is relevant. But transports, Incubi getting cheaper, I think are massive for Drukhari. So Drukhari needed the love. I'm glad they got the love. They got the love.
They absolutely got the love. They got the holistic love, as in rules changes, points changes, and Dataslate, a new freaking detachment. Up next is Grey Knights, 1 change. Librarian is up 10 points. That's it. Yeah. Nothing else changed.
Gene Stealers were hidden in the shadows. You scrolled right by him. Pierce
nothing changed. Oh,
No.
pure strains went down. Still nothing changed.
Pure strains went down, which barely matters. Grey Knights barely went up. And we're on to Imperial Knights.
A lot of green, no red here. Armiger Warglaive and Knight Gallant are the only untouched models. Everything else went down.
The Atropos. So
Never heard of you. Never heard of you.
I was actually running the Atropos.
I saw. He's actually pretty good.
Lots of changes for Knights. A lot of things went down a little bit.
Dude, Castellan went down 40. Is that correct?
That's nice. I like that part.
5, 6. Yeah, went down 40 points. Cheaper. Me too.
A lot of Knights went. So a lot of the mid-sized Knights went down in the 25 to 30 ballpark.
Yeah, dude, Crusader went down 30. That's significant as well.
Yeah, and then the Helverin went down 10. The Warglaive didn't change. For me personally, I think that all of the Knight lists that I had on my phone went down between 75 and 95 points, which is not bad.
Not enough to get in
crazy.
Yeah, not enough to get another baby Knight in, which is what I was hoping. I was hoping that they were shifting enough points to get another baby Knight in. Canis Rex went down 25. Fantastic.
Canis, am I allowed to swear on your show, Adam?
We're allowed one poignant swear word, so lay it on us.
All right, Canis Rex is a fucking G.
He is a baller. He's so good, man. And him just being 435, dude. I was looking to take him in guard lists, to ally him in guard lists.
We have to talk after the show. I played 2 games of guard with Canis, and it's actually pretty dope. He's just here's my gun line and my bowling ball. It's just bowling ball Canis of people. What I found happened to most of my lists is I cut a squad of agents, like a cheap squad. I had the choice to cut a cheap squad of agents and 1 enhancement, and then I slot in a 3rd Warglaive, or I cut one of my 2 assassins and turned it into a Warglaive. That's kind of how it was working. Or I downgrade a Knight, cut an agent squad, and add a Warglaive. So there was ways to cut things worth less than a Warglaive and then add a Warglaive. It's kind of what kept happening. Was I was cutting 70-ish points in some configuration to get another vehicle in, and that's a net buff. And an extra reroll is a nice buff.
Yeah, exactly right. Because I was about to say all these things got their rerolls are just more better now. Like they all got 1 reroll to hit, 1 reroll to wound. Because I don't know what the other one does anymore. I mean, I do, but it doesn't matter because that was the one I'm taking from every freaking game.
The other one was actually kind of good, but I agree. The reroll is usually better.
Totally eclipsed now. Why did they drop the Gallant? Is interesting to me.
They didn't drop the Rampager either. I think that they're just mean. What I think actually the reason is that last update for Knights, they dropped the Gallant and the Rampager more than any other Knight.
Yeah, okay.
And that's so fair. They see this as evening it out when they own, because the last one they nerfed Towering, made the Gallant Rampager cheaper after they had raised the entire roof of Chaos Knights and Knights in a panic in like July or something. Yeah. Oh my God, kill them all. Yeah. Next up, we have Leagues of Votann. Thunderkin and Hearthguard are both up 10 points per min squads, so 20 on the max squads, and the Sagittar up 15. This is going to be a big shakeup. I mean, everyone knew the Sagittar had to go up 100 freaking points for that model. Was insanity. Best transport in the game. It's not even close, especially now you can't freaking Nurgle a Rhino very well. Is this going to be a big change to Leagues of Votann? No, I think Votann are still good. I think Votann took a small nerf, smaller than some other top factions, but they weren't as good as those top factions. They got less of a nerf as a result. I think Thunderkin aren't actually that good, and if you're taking them, you just cut them. Hearthguard and Sagittar going up. Honestly, I think you just do like 4 or 5 Sagittar instead of 6, and you move on with your life.
I was about to say, if you're taking Thunderkin, drop the Thunderkin, your army's fine. If you weren't taking Thunderkin, you lost the Sagittar, your army's fine. And you still probably have some points left over.
List. Yeah, it's still a good army. I think Votann is still a perfectly fine army, slightly less crazy. I am not mad about this. And if I was a Votann player, I think this could have been worse, could have been better. You're fine living in the middle.
We are up to the elephant in the room, and this is probably the big issue in this whole data slate, whole field manual, everything. Without Custodes getting a big buff, I do think we were going to be in the Necron age, because Necrons are untouched in this balanced data slate. So unless there is I think we still are. I think they are, with the nerfs to Eldari and CSM, which were the ones that were kind of holding Necrons down somewhat. They could really hang with them. Now I think Necrons are just the undeniable dominant S tier army in the game until proven otherwise. What do you think?
I would agree completely. Necrons received 0 changes. 0 changes in points, 0 changes in Dataslate. AdMech are the same situation, although obviously the context is different. Necrons have won every super major since they came out. Yes, that's only 2, but I can also point to 2 majors that they won in the same 6-week stretch. I think we all know Necrons are too good right now. They were potentially being held down by Eldar and CSM, and they are no longer. I think we saw that power level of the game drop, because I think the buffs that we saw for some armies were not as harsh as the nerfs we saw to the top armies. I think the watermark of the game has dropped, and Necrons are just standing in the short end of the pool.
Is there a unit in the game right now that one-shots a Catan with the nerfs that we've had? Like, is there a unit that we're going to see taken in the top tier armies? Should people even bother trying to build units that one-shot Catans? Because I'm not sure it's worth it anymore.
I don't think it's worth the time. There are units that can.
I think there are units that can. For the points,
there's one very funny unit that I think is actually really good that can.
I mean, I still legitimately think that people are going to keep taking Wraithguard, because Eldari, I don't think they have. I think that's just still one of their best units. They're just going to take it. Whatever points that unit is, as long as it's not half their army, they're going to take it. So that is definitely an option. But man, the no points changes here, it just is rough, is very rough. I mean, there was no points changes to AdMech either. Of course, they just did both those because they probably wrote this around the same time those codexes came out, or probably within weeks of that. So it makes sense. But it is very worrying that everything that could have been a contender for Necrons has now been nerfed. And it's, I'll say it, I really reiterate, I'm not sure anything's going to be taking W's off Necrons for a while.
Yeah, no, really. I don't Custodians are probably the closest, but I don't think anyone is going to have a positive win rate to Necrons for another month or two. Here's my biggest thing. I don't know what goes on in the room. I don't know how the sausage is made. Let me just clarify that now for anyone who's listening and thinks that this is somehow my fault. I don't know how they decide what does and doesn't get nerfed. I think there was a point in time when this document got written where it was easy to hand wave and say, we just got Necrons. We're not going to nerf them yet. Maybe they wrote this thing in December before they went on Christmas holiday. And you know what? Fair enough. However, there was opportunity to see that this was a problem. I mean, I'm not going to get into specifics about like what events they won. Go read Goonhammer. Go check BCP. They have won several events. They have won large events. They have won events in the US. They have won events in the UK. They have done very well. There was a point where they could have stepped in and said, you know what? We weren't going to change Necrons, but now I think we should. I don't know why that didn't happen. I don't know if maybe the people who wrote this said, you know what, maybe we should change this. And corporate was like 3-month waiting period. Don't even try. Yep. Maybe they tried and they got overruled. Maybe they didn't try. I don't know. Something happened because there was the only thing I can guarantee, and not because I know, but because it's obvious, is that someone in Games Workshop brought up, hey, should we change Necrons? Yeah. And the answer from someone else was no.
No. Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting couple of months. If they had to hit Necrons, man, I think the game would be in such a stupendously amazing place.
That's what kills me.
Exactly right.
Everything else makes me happy.
One more step from like a golden age, a golden 3 to 6 months. Orcs is up next, and I got to say I'm a bit weird on Orcs. Like Orcs wasn't a top performing; it was a good middle of the pack army. Their best units got hit, and a bunch of their not good units went down. This is what I usually expect to see from an army that is considered to be good. That you would see their best couple of units go up 5 or 10 points, and then a bunch of stuff that wasn't getting played would.
I think Orcs were above average.
Yeah,
but they weren't crazy.
I mean, they didn't take big hits. I mean, Knobs went up 8 points per model. They went up 5 points, so 10 points for 10. They went from 105 to 110. So they're not horrific hits. Squig Hog Boys are 125 now from 110.
So they went up 5 per model. A truck went up 5 points.
That's fine. Squidcog Boys is a bit more than I would have thought. 5 or 10 would have been reasonable. Stuff that went down, though. Battle Wagon went down, which was seeing some play. Hunter Rig and Kill Rigs both went down, which is cool. Kill Rig went down substantially, went down 30 points. So I am quite excited to see if that gets them back on the table. Killer Cans went down, and then all the buggies, I think, went down, yeah?
Yeah, and the Morganite went down an amount that can't be bothered to look up.
Who cares?
Yeah, it's down sub 300.
Yeah, who cares?
Which means it's down 35, which is because I did look.
What is rough?
I'm happy with this.
I'm kind of okay with it. I wish the Squidcogs.
Yeah,
okay.
I think Orcs were a sleeper army that was a little bit better than people thought. I think their win rate was decent. Top players were playing them. Top players were getting pretty good results. I've seen Orcs run over good armies. I think getting a small hit on a few things and more things get cheaper, I think that's perfectly good because, again, that game is changing around them. And if they're getting a bit of a complicated side grade while the top armies get nerfed, they are so happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the knobs don't go anywhere. 5 points per 5 does not change a thing. The Squidcog Boys might. I mean, people were taking 336 Squidcog Boys. That's 60 points up in your army for those.
Yeah, I think you would just go like 333 or 36 and then take another unit instead and call it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Take a unit of bikes, take a unit of Storm Boys instead of the last 3. But apart from that, yeah, I think Orcs are pretty fine. Space freaking Marines.
Ooh,
oh boy, John, why? Why did you have to get us nerfed? I blame you exclusively for this. Aggressors are up 10 points per. So 20 points per 6. The Centurion devs, which were only good in one freaking detachment, got slapped with 10 points.
10 points per 3.
Inceptors went up 20
per 3.
Per 3, so 40. I am really worried about Inceptors. I'm still going to have to take a couple of 3s because they're just too good not. But man, the 6-mans are a bit of a hard pill for 40-point increase. What else? Scouts went up. Redemptors went up. Whirlwind went up. And that is about it. But those were all...
A lot of things went down a little bit, and by a lot, I mean small things.
Dude, 35 points got slapped on the Whirlwind. 35.
That was too much, but honestly, I don't like Whirlwinds, so I'm fine.
Yeah, I didn't.
They can just not get taken.
I'm happy they've been removed from my consideration pool because they're not now. Talks about the things that went down, and are any of them significant?
Yeah, Intercessors, Assault Intercessors, and Furnace Squads all went down 5 points per model. Same with Heavy Intercessors. Don't care about any of that. Yeah. Of those 4 units, the Heavy Intercessor was previously the best in my mind, although Assault Intercessors and Intercessors all have a theoretical role. They got a little cheaper. Look, 5-man Assault Intercessor squad with a named character jumping out of an impulsor still kind of whacks. Intercessors just keep getting cheaper, and eventually I'll take them, but not today. Outriders did get significantly cheaper, but I don't care because they tickle people with chainswords, and it doesn't matter. Goleman went down, which I don't care about because he's not good.
15 points. Didn't you tell me if Outriders were... in fact, somebody get the clip from last week. You said Outriders, if they were 80 points, I would think about them. And now they are. And you watched it. Never mind. I agree with you. Who cares? I'm just joshing you.
You're good. Josh me away. I deserve that. However, counterpoint, still not doing it. I just won't do it. Goldman down, Sternguard went down. Don't care. Nothing that I care about went down. Sternguard got so much worse that I just don't.
Dude, Sternguard for me, I'm going to look at them. Now I will genuinely look at them at 90 points for 5. I will have a look. I still don't think I'm going to find anything, but I will consider them now. Because that is pretty freaking cheap. The fact that you pay 2 points per model on top of an intercessor to get a Sternguard for like just more everything is pretty funny. But and the fact that we're still probably not going to take it is hilarious.
Yeah, I don't think I value the Sternguard that much. You know what? If Custodes didn't have the Devlin change, maybe I would. But like they did, so I'm not going to. I still rate the Devlins.
Space Wolves. I mean, sorry. I think Space Marines got hit harder than they needed to be. Personally, it's the utility units that hurts me. The fact that all my scouts and all my inceptors just got so much. How many? Sorry, okay. Your Vanguard that you took to come in second at WCW. How much did it go up?
150.
Do you think that is fair?
Yes.
You're insane.
All right, look. Let me say something. Okay, this is very hard for me because, speaking politely, I was getting better than average results with that list, and so I I feel like this is a bad change for the average Space Marine player.
I agree.
Because we saw that Space Marine win rates were garbage. Even when the Ultramarine Vanguard was going and doing its thing, the Vanguard detachment, according to StatCheck, had a 52% win rate, which is okay, cool. Yeah. That's good, but it's fine. It's not unhealthy. And the actual Space Marine Codex as a whole, not using the non-compliant chapters, was a 43% win rate last I checked, which was like a week or so ago. So like Space Marines weren't in a good place, and then they nerfed some of their best units. They're going to get worse. However, full disclosure, I have played 3 games with Ultramarine Vanguard after we received this document, whatever that was. I played 3 games very recently with new points, and I am 3-0 against 3 former WTC players.
Yep, doing just fine.
This list, you can still make it good.
Well,
it's not as good, but damn, it was good before, and it's still pretty good.
I still think it's fine. I think aggressors
were the part that didn't need to go up.
Yeah, aggressors needed.
Aggressors aren't good.
I was weird on whether it was the aggressors were the problem or it was the Land Raider Redeemer was the problem. But in Vanguard, it was the aggressors. For everyone else, it's the Redeemer is such a good option. I'm really happy the Redeemer didn't go up because I think it's just it's one of the bread and butter cornerstones of all the Space Marine lists, and it's kind of necessary. Why did Redemptors get hit?
Yeah, people were spamming them.
Redemptors suck. I don't get it.
They're not good at top tables, but they're good at mid tables.
Okay, because I've played a lot of games trying to make the Ironstorm good, especially I was helping practice a couple of other people who were heading over for LVO and Uprising and things, and I played double and triple Redemptor lists like 6 or 7 games, and I'm like, man, these things are not worth the paper they're printed on. They suck so bad.
I don't like Redemptors. I don't think that they're good enough for me to personally take. I played a couple games of them. But someone was spamming them, and now they're not.
No, they're not. All right, we need to move on. We need to get this done so I can start my workday soon. Okay. Tau Empire up next. So Crisis battlesuits have gone up, but that's the only thing that went up, and a couple of very worrying things went down. Why is the Riptide now 165 points? That thing is a freaking bargain for the stats.
165 for Riptide, in my mind, is bananas. I think every single Tau list is Riptide.
Trip-tide now, just trippy tide
all day. Dude, and the commanders got cheap. Like I'm sorry, but like a Crisis battle suit is 200 points for 3, which means we are paying about 66 points per Crisis suit.
Yep.
A commander in Crisis battle suit is 80 points.
15 points more. Yep.
And so you're suddenly like, wait a minute, it's like it's less than 15 points more to just add an extra gun to a Crisis suit, and it runs by itself and doesn't get as much strat efficiency and synergy. But like, hold on, I personally, I'm not a Tau player. If I were writing a Tau list right now, I feel like I would go 0 Crisis, 3 Riptides, 3 Enforcer commanders.
Yep.
And then an absolute metric load of good Tau units like Breachers and Fish and a Hammerhead or Long Strike.
Yep. You literally right then just described the 8th edition index Tau list. That was just like unga bunga, how many commanders can I fit? That is a place we can go to again. Like just spamming commanders because they are so cheap and they are very efficient. Vespid went down. Who cares? That's probably nice for somebody out there. But yeah, Crisis is the only thing that went up.
Cool.
Tau made out like bandits as far as I'm concerned.
I agree. I think a Triptide list with a Crisis brick got cheaper than before, and that's all you need to know. Yep. And then if you decide to push further into some of the cheaper stuff than into Crisis suits, which I think you can still run Crisis, you just don't have to, I think that they're fine. So I think Tau, overall, they side graded in a weird way that is occasionally better, and then the meta got brought lower in general. I think they're happy.
All right, Thousand Suns. Nothing changed. I would have liked to have seen some changes here. There are a couple of things here that definitely could have gone down. Stuff like Enlightened, etc. could have gone down.
I think a very small number of T-Suns units could have gone down. I personally have a high opinion of T-Suns. I think that they are much better than the meta perceives.
I think so as well.
Them going down had the potential to be very dangerous. I'm happy with this.
Easy done. All right, moving on to Tyranids.
That's it. I'm sorry, Adam. I'm out of time. I got to go.
He's got to go. Tyranids, for some reason, got hit. They have a lot of green and they have some red. Death Leaper, Gargoyles, Neurolictor, and Pyrovores are all up. down. We have Screamer Killers going down. Who cares? Tyrannofex is going down. Norn Emissary and the Norn Assimilator, 290 and 275 respectively. Might see them have a little bit more play. Broodlords, Gene Stealers, Toxicreens, and Trigons down. So plenty of stuff has gone down, mate. But why are you pissed off? I don't think anything here should have gone up. But what do you think? Maybe the Neurolictor. Neurolictor could have gone up.
Let me be fair. Tyranids, the 4 things that went up. I'm mad because those are the 4 units that I took in every single list. And you know what? Maybe that's why they went up. Maybe I deserve this. It's possible. I personally think Tyranids were not so good that they needed that many things going up, but they're definitely better than their win rate. I wanted a couple more drops, if I'm being honest. The Broodlord of Genestealer drops only is relevant for Vanguard. I think Vanguard's fine. I don't think it's how I personally am going to be playing Tyranids anytime soon, but it's nice for that detachment where they're actually pretty good. Norns, don't care, never heard of you. Screamer Killer, Tyrannofex, Trigon, those are actually good drops.
Dude, the Tyrannofex went down 55.
Okay, that is because GW comically blasted them because they went up 50 points. Like 3 months ago, which was hilariously bad. And they also took a rules nerf from Index to Codex. So I think Tyrannofex are merely good. They're not like insane. The Screamer Killer, I actually think was a very good data sheet with a typo on the points cost before. And I think at 145, a Screamer Killer, it's a 25-point reduction, is significantly improved. Most of my lists went up in the neighborhood of 75 points.
Yeah,
however, which to me is wild because I just didn't think Tyranids were so strong that they needed those kinds of increases. I feel like Neurolictors needed to go up. I think Gargoyles up was right. I think Neurolictors needed to go up less than they did, but still up. I think Death Leap and Pyrivore stay the same, and I'm fairly happy with that.
Yeah.
But Screamer Killer Tyrannofex down does spark joy. I think Tyranids will still be fine.
I think
this is annoying.
It's exactly right. It's annoying.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a slap because they were, again, a sub 50% win rate army that was crutching on the only good units they had. So they brought those units up because it was the only thing we were taking, but we weren't taking them because they were broken. We're taking them because so much of this book is terrible. Yes. However, there is enough good stuff that I am totally still going to be playing them because I think Tyranids are still very fun for me.
I agree. We're on to our last faction, that being World Eaters. I'm not sure if this is necessary, what's happened here, because essentially all the units that got taken went up, barring Berserkers. And Berserkers only got taken as a chassis to deliver Khan and or Master of Execution, mostly the Master of Executions. Angron didn't go up, which I'm very happy to see. 8-bound, Exalted 8-bound, Khan, and the Master of Executions all went up. Lord of Skulls and the Forge Fiend are the only things that went down. The Lord of Skulls going down is kind of hilarious because I already have some people who, like, in teams lists thought they were quietly quite good. Going down 30 points is probably going to make some fringe people happy. The 8-bound went up how much? They went up 10 points?
10 points per 3. So all types of 8-bound went up 10 per 3. All the 2 characters that increased went up 20.
Well, 20, yeah. I'm not sure that 20 points was warranted after the change to the Berserker Glaive. It probably is, but I think these are mostly fine. But I wonder what's going to happen to get the points in for these changes now. Because if nothing
tell you if you want, because Anthony's already done math. That Anthony Vanilla 1975 list that had a Lord on Juggernaut carrying favorite.
Yeah, he's just gone, right? Is what he's gone. Actually, we called it before. We already said that guy doesn't warrant his spot anymore because favorite corn's trash. Get him out of there, and you're probably just fine.
He's gone, and you can now fit in 10 Jackals instead of him.
Oh, fine. The world is fine. Doesn't matter. World Eaters are off doing exactly what they were doing, just in a yeah. So it's totally fine. You do lose some of that Blood God reliability. I'm not that familiar with World Eaters. I don't know how impactful it is. The World Eaters players assure me that that's impactful. However, first time you read a nerf, everyone kind of feels like their faction got nerfed too much. Like the first time I read Ultimate Vanguard, I was like, this is ridiculous. Why would they do this to me? I feel attacked. And then I slept on it and it got better. I was exactly the same. World Eaters are probably fine. In all likely, I think they're very fine because they're two of their biggest problem. In fact, I think they're better than fine. I think kind of they stayed virtually the same, and the rest of the meta got worse, if anything. Because they still do what they do. They're still the ultimate pressure army. Maybe Custodian's getting better is rough for them in that exchange. because they were like, cool, we are the same as you, but fights first. That can be quite disgusting.
Yeah. I still think I'd rather be the faster army than the fights first army in that staring contest. One thing that is interesting, the World Eaters Forge Fiend went down 25 points. And I know a World Eaters Forge Fiend is not the same as a CSM Forge Fiend. It is the same profile without the sustained and lethal for 55 points less.
When you say it like that,
would I go 55 points less to not have sustained / my choice of sustained lethal and not have strat synergy? I kind of might. It's 145 for a Forge Fiend gun.
Very cheap.
No rules on it at all. I think it causes a battle shock test or something I don't care about. Although that battle shock test does stop the Custodes from fighting first.
That is true. That's cute. That is very cute.
I feel like 145 points for a Forge Fiend with no buffs is still pretty good.
Mate, I'm looking at 450.
Body.
I'm looking at 450.
I don't know, man. I know there's no synergy. There's no buffs. But that is just not an expensive data sheet anymore.
That is not. Well, I'm actually looking at 450 on the Lord of Skulls because in Teams events, 2 Lords of Skulls and Angron runs you what, 1,300?
It's a lot, but
1,300
you still got
points.
room for some stuff.
You still got room for some stuff, man. That's 700 points of 8-bound. You get to chuck in that list now.
But you have to put 20 Jackals in there with the Demon Prince that they can go to ground for the 4-pound.
100%. If you're doing that, if you're not doing that, you're doing it wrong. But anyway, that brings us to the end of this episode, and there is a lot to disseminate. We're probably going to leave all of the dissemination over for part 2 for talking about biggest winners and losers and breaking down some first press lists for some factions or what we think each archetype might be moving forward if they've changed at all. So please come over and join us over there on Patreon at Art of War Down Under. And overall, mate, we're going to do our rating system. So just 1 to 10 for both of these. So 1 to 10, how happy are you with the balanced data slate?
8. I am very happy. Necrons.
Yes. Pretty much it would be a 10 out of 10 on the slate if it slapped Catan in the face, just like slap Catan down to size.
Catan lost their 5 up Feel No Pain.
Correct.
This would be a 9 or a 10. This is like a 7.5 to an 8 now.
Yeah, I actually exactly agree. I think this builds on the previous slate very well. I wish it undid 1 or 2 more nerfs from the previous slate, especially notably for the bondsman ability.
Fair. I think 7 is probably more fair than 8. Still very much right direction.
Still very, very, very good. All right, 1 to 10 on the points changes.
6.
Yeah, same.
I feel like they missed a couple of armies got hit in the wrong way. They missed a lot more that could have been fixed by points.
Agreed.
Sword Brethren going nowhere.
Huge miss.
While I'm salty that Inceptors went up 40 per 6, but am I still going to play them some? Yes. Yeah. Dude, I feel like they missed with more things on points.
Well, they nerfed Chosen and then replaced Chosen in the same slate because they didn't nerf the Space Marine Chosen. So a Space Marine's the new CSM now because we're just going to be like Unga Bunga, here is Captain and or Hellbrecht and or Judicia plus Sword Brethren in every list.
I think so. Yeah, I think 3 Impulsors full of your choice of Captain Judy Hellbrecht is still so good. I think you just take that.
I think you do. I think that's the preeminent trading army in the game, and we'll see if it holds up into the what could be it's definitely the Necron meta. Could be the Necrons and Custodes meta. We'll have to wait and see on that. But my man, that is going to wrap us up for this episode. Thank you so much, everybody who's joined us. Hopefully you have enjoyed this one. Hopefully, if you've waited a day or 2 for it, it has been worth the wait. Lots to get excited about for 40k. It is absolutely a decent shakeup, especially to the top of the meta with some buffs and nerfs coming in the middle as well. I'm very excited for the next couple of months of 40k. Let us say our good nights, and we'll see you on the other side, guys. Hopefully you'll join us for part 2. John, thank you very much again, mate. You're an absolute freaking legend, and I really appreciate you jumping on the last minute for me. Really, really thank you.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here, and I'll just give a quick shout. If anyone wants even more Dataslate content, obviously there's no one sexier than Adam Camilleri to give it to you, but if you want the next best thing, check out the Art of War 40k YouTube channel. By the time this is live, we will also have a lot of content regarding the Dataslate up on our YouTube channel, so make sure you check that out.
Yeah, dude, I am going to be absolutely swimming in the War Room content for the next couple of weeks. I'm just trying to get as much goodness in as I can. Hopefully you guys will too. And yeah, see you on part 2.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you for listening to Art of War Down Under, a content review podcast for Warhammer 40K, hosted by Adam Camilleri, produced by Seamus Ronan. Enjoyed the show? Want your lists reviewed and the content you heard put into practice? Sign up to our Patreon and connect with us online or on Facebook. Just search for Art of War Down Under. Signing out from tomorrow.